Hello and welcome to this month's edition of United Way at Work. I'm Nanci Gordon, the Executive Director of United Way of Rutland County, and I've really been looking forward to this month's show because we have such great conversations behind the scenes. My guest is the new Executive Director of the Mentor Connector, Chris Hultquist. If you've seen his name in other forms, it's HU. I'm delighted to have you here, Chris. Welcome.
Wonderful. Thank you for having me, Nanci.
I've been a fan of the Mentor Connector since its inception 12 years ago when Sandy Cohen was the ED and then Rebecca followed in her footsteps, and now we have you. And I say new, you're relatively new. How long have you been in the position?
About 9 months. So yes, I know. I don't know when that new becomes not new anymore, but
I guess after at least a year.
Yeah, exactly. So I have a few months left to go where I can say that I'm new.
Working your newness, as it were. Let's talk about the Mentor Connector. It's grown a lot in the last dozen years.
It has. So we started with really as an umbrella organization, and then we grafted in a couple different other programs that we're running at the time. And what we've become is right now we have about 150 mentor matches all over Rutland County every year, and throughout the past 10 years we've served about 1,000 youth all across Rutland County.
Let's talk about the basics of the mentor-mentee relationship and their relationship with the family system. First of all, are there any particular qualifications that you look for in mentors?
So with mentors, really the biggest qualification is that you want to be a part of the program, and that you really want to give back. Having an hour a week is all we ask for. The minimum is an hour a week, and that's throughout a 1-year commitment. So 52 hours basically is what we ask for as a minimum. But what we've seen is that most of our mentor matches, that hour a week is blown away within the first few months, is because what happens is that when you connect with a young person, you really create that bond and create that friendship, and that turns into, if you end up going out to eat and then going to the movies, that's a few hours right there. And so when you factor in travel time, you're looking at a couple hours and of that really exciting time every week. And so it depends on what you want to do, really, is that match. But we really ask for just at least an hour a week, every week. And really, we're just looking for people who can commit to at least a year. A year-long commitment. Of course, we do background checks. We do, the interviews. And then we do a ton of training behind it. But really, what we found is that people who just come in and they are just want to give back to young people are the best people that we tend to bring in for our matches.
And I've seen a lot of people who are in mentoring roles who are former educators or somehow previously connected with youth. Maybe their own children have grown up, or maybe it's somebody who's never had kids, or always wanted a boy and didn't have one, or always wanted a girl and didn't have one, and and it's that kind of chance to share like interests and activities with somebody who's excited about having that attention and that emotional connection with another human being, and a grown-up at that, and a stable person who follows through and shows up week in and week out. I mean, that seems like it's a huge part of it, too. It's just a reliable, trustworthy adult.
Exactly. And that's why you brought up people who are retired or people, grandparents. A lot of the people that we bring in to be mentors are in that grandparent role, or perhaps their grandkids aren't in the area, or perhaps they haven't had kids of their own, and so they're able to give back in that way. And that's and that really is key, is the stability within a lot of our mentor matches, because our average match length throughout the past 10 years that we've been in existence, or 12. We've seen about 5 years as the average match length.
And that's quite a bit more than typical.
Than nationally. Yeah, exactly. Nationally, the average match length is 9 months.
Wow.
And so they tend to say that a lot of matches don't even make it the first year. And 97% of our matches make it past the first year, and then 84% decide to keep on going subsequent years.
Wow. Once again, Rutland steps up. It's like how many people give blood here per capita. And, you know, once again, Rutland steps up.
Yeah.
I love the fact that you have different types of mentoring programs under your umbrella, and different age groups are served.
Yep.
And you do have youth mentors, if you will, you know, college age. Let's talk about those opportunities too.
Yep. So we work with both the College of St. Joe and Castleton to provide mentoring experiences as well. So what we are looking for is really people who just want to give back in that stable relationship like we talked about before. And a lot of college kids are those stable relationships. You know, a lot of times what we find are young adults who are kind of in that college, in that later college, or even just graduated college and they just started their career. Those are the people before they have kids, they get to really bond with a young person and just hang out with them. A lot of the youth that we see don't have those stable adult figures in their life at all. And so really what we provide is that stable adult figure to help them create ideas of a vision for their life. You know, passions, whether it's going to the Paramount and seeing a show or whether it's going fishing. It's doing those activities that we think of as normal everyday activities, but a lot of these young people don't get those activities at all.
So it's a chance to broaden their experience, to expand their horizons, maybe to inspire hopes, dreams, ambitions that they might not be exposed to in their own households, and really perhaps change the course of somebody's life.
Exactly. That reminds me of a story that I heard the other day that, so one of our mentor matches, they really bonded over a Jeep. So the mentor has I think it was a 68 Jeep. I mean, an old Jeep here, you know, and so they really bonded over starting to renovate this Jeep. And he taught the young person how to change the shocks, how to change the brakes, how to change the oil, all of these things. Cool. And that just this past year, he just graduated and now is going to school for automotive. And that, you know, that whole purpose kind of, you know, behind what he wants to do with his life was all due to the fact that he was matched with a mentor who really wanted to pursue, you know, who wanted to teach him how to work on a car. Before they were matched, he had never even worked on a car before. You know, he didn't really, working on an automotive wasn't even on a radar. But because the mentor matched, because they were able to just bond over working on this car, it really drew out this passion that he had for automotive, and now he wants to do that for his career. And that we've heard tons of stories of that. Like there's another story of a young girl who had never played tennis before, and her and her mentor bonded over tennis, and he taught her how to play tennis, and they really worked well together. And it was a husband and wife mentor pair that actually mentored this young girl, and she actually ended up going to school and is now a tennis instructor. Wow! And that's what she does professionally, is she's a tennis instructor, and it's all because there was a skill, there was a bond, there was a connection, and it gave her kind of that leg up to say, hey, you know, you could do something with your life in this area.
I know for me growing up, and these were informal mentoring situations, my sister-in-law, very artistic person. I had an affinity for art. My mother, bless her soul, could draw stick figures. You know, my father had no interest in, but my sister-in-law, Cheryl, is still to this day. She paints, she draws. She went and bought me sketch pads and coloring pencils and all those kinds of things to encourage that talent in me. And paying it forward, I was babysitting for a pair of young girls, and I went back to visit, and I ran into their family. This is on Long Island. I ran into their mom, and she was telling me how much her older daughter had accomplished in art in school, and how everybody was asking her, well, you know, do you have an artistic family? And she said, no, my babysitter taught me.
Wow, that's a great story.
Yeah, you know, and again, so I was the mentee and then the mentor with the same field of interest. Yeah. I love that carrying on through the generations, as it were.
Yeah, exactly, and that's really what our society was built on. Throughout the years, we were built on that paying it forward and giving it back to that next generation. And what has happened is that concept has just kind of gotten diluted nowadays, unfortunately, and it's really sad. And that's why our organization exists, is really to try to bring it back and try to bring that natural mentoring back into Rutland County.
It's kind of like these kids are apprentices for life.
Yep.
Rather not necessarily for a particular trade, but just in life in general.
Exactly. Exactly. Because when you're around an older person, whether it's somebody who's 10 years older or 40 years older than you, what happens is that you can see a different side of life. You get to see somebody who has had goals and set goals and actually achieved those goals. You're able to see somebody who has been able to see a different, whether they've traveled or whether they've just gone out of Rutland County, for example. They have different experiences than you have, and you're only going to be able to get to know that there are more experiences outside of your life right now by interacting with other people. And that's what we do. We provide is that interaction. Those people that come alongside of them, and not only do they interact and provide this vision for their future, but they also tell them that they're not alone. I read a statistic the other day that I believe it was 30%. It was a lower percentage, but that there was I think it was like 30% of young people can go through school today and not speak to an adult. That they can actually go through the school system and not speak at all to an adult. And it struck me, and I was like, there's no possible way.
Seriously? You never talked to your principal or
Exactly.
your teacher or anything?
Exactly.
Wow.
But then I had worked in a school in Claremont, and I could see how it could happen, where if you have, let's say you have 30 kids in your class. Well, yes, you could speak to them, but every day, do you speak to every single one of those kids? And then, so let's say there's one kid who doesn't get spoken to, and then they go to the next class, and they go to the next class, and they're the quiet kid, that's in the corner of the room. And I realized, wow, it is possible. That it is very possible for kids never to speak to an adult if they come home and parents aren't around. And, they make dinner, they go to bed, they wake up the next morning and do the whole thing all over. That I was just shocked that not only is it that they don't have somebody to count on, somebody to depend on, somebody to bounce some ideas off on what they want to be when they grow up, but just not even to have somebody there to talk to. That's just shocking to me. And
you really raise a very important point, because I think so often, whether we're in social services or in any other field, there are presumptions that we make that everybody's experience is pretty much like ours.
Yep.
And if we had a wholesome upbringing and we're fortunate enough that there weren't major crises in the family and stable household, whether it's one parent or two, whatever, we just assume that everybody has the same set of circumstances and therefore the same advantages. Mm-hmm. If we came up middle class or upper class, that everybody's got that, and the reality is something as basic as having a stable adult to talk to can't be taken for granted.
Exactly. And I met with a mentee, I think it was 2 months ago now, and I had learned that at their house where they're living, there isn't really a yard at all. And that because of their situations, the communal yard they can't access. And so they don't have it's a third grader, and they really can't get outside, and they can't go and play on the playground, and that just doesn't happen on their free time. And I was thinking, really, in this day and age, we have young people who just don't have a yard and can't go sledding on Saturday, and go out. Like, I'm thinking of my little kids, and just running around the yard is one of their most fun things. And just the fact that if you can't do that, then that's very limiting. And what does that do? Just that one aspect of not having a yard and not being able to play outside and run, what does that do? And later on, what does that teach you about life if you don't have that experience? And that's one small experience, that we provide. That our mentors will take young people out and they will go out and go to the park.
And get exercise and cultivate an interest in physical activity instead of just staying home with TV and computers.
Exactly.
And maybe discover an interest in a life sport or a team sport or just the pleasure of walking around a park.
Yeah. Or being in nature. Yeah. Just the beauty of being in nature. Growing up without that, even though we are in Vermont, with the land of trees and the land of nature, just there are young people in this, in this city that just don't get access to that nature, and aren't able to really see the beauty of the nature around us.
Yeah, I mean, say you're growing up and your parent doesn't have a car, and so you rely on local bus system or travel by foot. So like you said, it doesn't matter that the mountains are 10 minutes away.
Exactly. Whether they could be, 100 miles away, for you, it's still inaccessible, no matter where they are.
Let's talk about this training and support for mentors.
Yeah.
Say somebody's listening, say, you know what, I would like to do this.
Good, give me a call.
Yeah, seriously,
Yep.
give you a call, but also what kind of training and support? Because a mentor may come up with challenges in terms of how do I support this kid, their family life, something's going on, I don't know what to do. What kind of supports are there for somebody?
Yeah, so we have an initial training that's like a 2 to 3 hour training that it really gives you the overview of what it takes to be a mentor. So it's everything from communication to setting up boundaries to, if you have problems, who to call, who to contact. Just the overview really of mentoring in and of itself. And then we will walk you through the whole mentoring process. So from the match, and the first meet and greet is what we call when we bring the match, the youth and the mentor together. And we sit there and facilitate that whole process. And then we check in after every match. For the first few matches, we check in with both the parents of the youth themselves, and then the mentor, just to make sure that everything is going well. Because really at the beginning, that's where, that's kind of the make it, break it, is the first few months. Because if they can bond over something, if they can really connect, then what happens is that connection really just expands. And then it's a lot easier to go into, saying, hey, Bobby, how's life going? What's going on in your life? Talk to me about what's going on so that I can help, kind of things.
Yeah.
And so that pinnacle first few months is when we have a lot of connection with the mentors and the mentee and the families. And then what we do is we provide ongoing training throughout the year. So 6 times a year, we have trainings on lots of different topics. So it can be a topic on communication. It can be a topic on activities to do with your youth. Thinking outside the box of activities. It can be a training on really how to help a youth that's transitioning to high school and what that looks like. And a lot of times, what that does is that it creates an environment where young people can really bond and really understand each other, I guess is really the main point. Because we find that a lot of times mentors, they're all excited and they really want to get connected, and then they jump in and 6 months down the road, they're like, my life has changed. Something, whatever, you fill in the blank. Things have...
I'm working on a new schedule. I've been reassigned a shift, or
exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
And so what that does is that allows us to then provide them that ongoing support. And so we check in with the mentors and mentees. Within that first pinnacle time, we check in with them after every match, and then we check in with them monthly, and then that goes to quarterly. And just provide that ongoing support. And then we also have what we call the mentor community, and we have community groups that actually meet every month all around Rutland County. And these mentors can come together and really can talk about the struggles that they're having, what happens if in this scenario, for example. Like one of the scenario that comes up sometimes often is that the mentor will learn that the family might not have money for Christmas presents, let's say. And so then the mentor, of course, feeling like I've just become part of this family, I've just invested myself, my life involved with this family, all of a sudden, if they're not going to have Christmas, this is a problem. I need to fix this problem, you know? I mean, that's just natural.
But that raises the question of the money piece.
Yeah,
I mean, does
exactly.
somebody, how much money does a mentor have? Do you have supports to maybe provide, I think you have relationships, right, with some community organizations to provide passes for mentors and mentees?
Exactly. And that's where really it does not take a lot of money to mentor at all. We go all over the community and we connect with different businesses and different organizations to support the mentor match. So, for example, Killington will give us passes, and we have discounts with Killington. We have discounts with Vermont Sport and Fitness, McDonald's. You know, and that's just a handful of different organizations that we work with that provide support. And so we have a lot of in-kind donations, as well as we have this thing called a mentor card, and that they can just show the mentor card and they can get in, like to the movie theater, they can get in for a discounted rate. And there's just a lot of different ways that you can mentor and not have it at all a huge cost. And that's what we like to say to people at the beginning is, figure out your budget. You know, sit down and decide how much money do you want to invest with this. If you don't want to invest any money, that's great. Then go to the park. You know, come to your house and cook a dinner. You know, and just have fun doing that. And that's totally fine. Those are free activities. But if you do want to spend some money, then carve out that amount of money and, you know, sit down with the young person and decide together what you want to do. If you have $100 for a month, let's say, then sit down with that young person and say, hey, how do you want to spend this $100? Because not only does that do you have fun together, but it actually helps you helps them to budget.
Yeah, teaching budgeting skills is crucial.
Yeah. And it helps them long term because they can see that, hey, you have this amount of money. What can we do with this and what can't we do with this?
And how are we going to spread it out? Or are we going to go for broke for one big thing and then go simple the rest of the month or the year? Yeah, that's all good lessons. Tell me about this major grant that you've gotten from a major mentoring organization, Mobius.
So Mobius, what Mobius does is Mobius on a statewide standpoint, they really try to garner mentoring support from a statewide viewpoint. And so Department of Children, Youth, and Families, and also the Permanent and Henderson Foundations are the major contributors into this fund. And so then they have some smaller donations into the fund as well. And then what that does is that fund gets distributed out to mentor organizations all across the state. And so I think they said that there's about 150 mentor organizations across the state that are funded through this fund, and we are so happy to be a part of that organization and a part of that funding stream. Because that money really does support our mentor matches. What we've found is that it takes about $2,000 to really support a mentor match, and that's from everything from, you know, the background checks to the support that we provide to the young people and to the mentor, you know, with the call-ins, with the check-ins, to making sure that everything's going well, to the activities that we do, to all of the travel that we have that's going around, you know, showing up, to the celebrations. We have celebrations for our mentor matches, and that when they reach a year, we have a big celebration with them all across the county. So if you think about all of that going on, it takes money, you know, to support those mentor matches all across the county. And that's where this money comes right in to support that.
I was about to say, and that's where United Way certainly is part of the solution.
Exactly.
And I'm just so excited that you have this new additional source, but knowing that United Way funding continues to be an important part of the service that the Mentor Connector offers in Rutland County.
Exactly.
And every school in the county has kids who are in mentoring situations one way or another. I mean, so it's really a county-wide phenomenon. It's
It
not
is.
Rutland
Yep.
city-based. It is
Exactly.
your
Exactly.
support reaches every town in the county, which is always an important thing to remember about giving to United Way of Rutland County. We really mean the county.
Yep, exactly. And even though, there's a lot of centralized need in Rutland City, and we totally understand that, and a lot of our mentor matches are in the city as well, but the reality is that outside of the city, there are just as many youth at need, and even more so in many ways. Like, for example, in Timoth, if a young person in Timoth really needs that adult in their life to help them grow up to be a young man, right? And what does that take and everything? Well, out in Timoth, you don't really have a lot of supports. I don't know Timoth all that well.
But physically, people are spread out. It's rural.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so you what happens is that you tend to not get a lot of the services because you're out in the rural areas, because it takes 15 minutes to drive anywhere. To drive where you need to go, that you tend to not be able to access a lot of things, especially if you don't have a vehicle. It's even harder, and much harder than living in the city. And so that's why a lot of our support really goes to those outlying communities as well. And that's why I'm glad that United Way covers the whole county, like we cover the whole county, because I feel like if we just focus on one portion of the county, what happens to the other, the other population all over?
And I've got to think there are so many more kids who need a mentor even than who are already served by the Mentor Connector, and that you're looking for new mentors to expand the program all the time.
Constantly. A survey came out a couple of years ago that is there's about 12,000 youth, 1,200 youth who are in need of a mentor in Rutland County and want one. So 1,200. So even though we've reached 1,000 youth already, there are still 1,200 youth that are out there that need somebody to turn to. And that's, so if you think about it, all across, and we have about 150, and a couple other programs, smaller programs have mentoring as a component to what they do as well. And so even if it's 200 mentors that we have in Rutland County currently, that's a small percentage of the real need that's out there. And that every year we're going to have more youth growing up, and filling those 1,200 spots, because realistically we need to grab a hold of these young people and say, I see you. You are not alone. You're not forgotten about.
You matter.
And you matter to society. Because 56% of youth in Rutland County feel like they don't matter to society.
Wow, that's important.
And that's the new Youth Risk Behavior Survey that was done.
That's a serious confession to make.
Yeah.
So if you are so moved to become a mentor, do please check in with Chris Hultquist at the Mentor Connector. What's the number, Chris?
775-3434.
775-3434. And do please remember, as we're wrapping up our campaign this year, if you have not made your contribution to United Way of Rutland County, it is not too late. We're wrapping up our campaign. And the first week of February, you may pledge. You don't have to pay it all right now. You may pledge as long as you have it fulfilled by the end of the year. We will count it as part of this campaign, and we really need all hands on deck. Many small contributions add up to a very effective, significant contribution. Everybody's share counts. We're looking for your support. You may text to the number 41444 with the word Rutland as the message, and you can pledge with your smartphone. You can pledge through our website, uwrutlandcounty.org. There's a donate page and a button. You can do that. We also take checks to United Way of Rutland County at 6 Church Street in Rutland. Again, we're counting on you to help us achieve the community's goal. It's not my goal. This isn't a sales job. This is our community's goal for the benefit of organizations such as the Mentor Connector. Our guest, Chris Hultquist, has been with us, and the half an hour has flown, Chris. Thank you so much.
Thank you for allowing us to be a part of this. It's so wonderful what United Way does and how you support so many organizations across Rutland County.
Thank you, Chris. And thank you for watching. I'm Nancy Gordon. Talk to you again next month.